those systems will be there. Okay. Like I want ecology systems. I want, if you kill all the bears in one region, then the deer go nuts. I want these, but these take a long time to get right.
Welcome to IGN FanFest. I'm Damon Hatfield. We have a special treat for you today. A few years ago, PLAYERUNKNOWN Productions dropped a mysterious teaser for something called Prologue. The team has gone mostly silent since then, showing only a behind-the-scenes video that was light on actual game details and dropping a tech demo called Preface, The Undiscovered World on Steam last year. But the real world is desperate for details on the next game from the creator of PUBG. Joining me today is PLAYERUNKNOWN himself, Brendan Greene, to talk about Prologue, Go Wayback, Preface, and just what is Project Artemis. Welcome, Brendan.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
So, Prologue, Go Wayback. Can you clarify exactly what this is? Is it a playable tech demo or is it a full game experience?
So it's a showcase of some tech we're building, but also a simple survival game. It's a survival loop that takes place on a map that changes every time you press play. So it's like a showcase and a test of this terrain tech we've developed, but also an emergent survival game. It's a unique world every time and some simple survival loops. It's a hard game, but it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. This is a survival loop, get from one side of the map to the other side of the map. There's some bad weather and you've got some mechanics to help you survive.
Can you give us some idea of what's the sort of size and scope of the experience?
So it's 8 by 8 kilometers. So you start the other side of the map. It's generally about 6-ish kilometers to get to the weather tower on the other side of the map. Currently about an hour and a half, I think, if you get everything running your way to get across the map. It's a different map every time, so quite unique every time, and yeah, it's exciting to us.
And you also have this demo, Preface, The Undiscovered World. How do Preface and Prologue relate to one another?
So Preface is exploring the scale. Preface is Earth-scale worlds. How do we generate that locally? How do we do that efficiently? And Prologue is looking at the systems we'll add to that world eventually. So it's testing our terrain tech. We have this tech that can generate millions, if not billions, of unique seeds. So creating quite literally unique maps every time you press play. Creating systems on these worlds in this way of doing it in real time requires the systems to be systemic in a way that hasn't really been done before. So we need to test out these systems and make sure that they can scale well when we move it to Earth scale. So Prologue is kind of a test bed for that.
So then there's Artemis. Is Artemis sort of the grand sum of what's being built with Prologue and Preface?
So we have a 3-game plan. So Artemis is like the third game, or the end goal, and that's the Earth-scale worlds with lots of stuff to do, kind of like almost like a civilization MMO, this kind of scale of thing, but not just a game, more just a place to go to. But the 3 games are solving 3 problems. One was terrain. How do you do terrain in real time, locally, so you don't have to send hard drives to people with data. It can all be done quite efficiently. Game 2 is then how do you add a lot of interaction like agents and bots to that world to give players lots of stuff to do and maybe test digital marketplace and ownership. And then game 3 is then adding millions of players to that loop by basically reinventing how you do networking at that scale so we can have millions of players in these worlds interacting together.
So circling back to Prologue, can you elaborate on the survival elements there, or have you learned anything from other survival games out there?
We have combustion, lighting fires, eating food, boiling pots. Nothing really new there, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to test and prove this new way of creating worlds and kind of building a community and building with the community, because we're discovering sort of new ways of interacting with this world day by day and working with a community to find their feedback and find what systems they'd like to add to the game to sort of make it more enjoyable for them. That's really the goal of Prologue.
Is Prologue about man versus nature, or will other NPCs pose a challenge?
No, it's man versus the weather.
Gotcha.
I wanted a really simple bad guy. And I just felt with AI, with patterns, you just see that. But with weather, it's cold, or it's wet, or it's hailing, or it's freezing. And that's simple, right? That's just a bar going down, and you just got to manage yourself. So for me, that was the easiest way to create a nice survival loop.
Can you give any examples of how players will have to adapt to dynamic weather systems?
You need different layers of clothing. So if it's quite cold, so if you're trying to find the next cabin on your route to the weather tower and suddenly it starts snowing, if you don't have the right clothing, you'll probably die because you'll just get so cold you'll just pass out. So it's quite harsh like that. So you have to plan your route. You can almost predict the weather by just seeing what's coming in next, seeing the transitions, and trying to make sure you're prepared. You don't end up in the middle of nowhere with nothing to keep you warm.
Is there a release window for Prologue?
We're hoping Q2 this year, but like I don't want to. I'm very hesitant with release dates just because I don't want to put that pressure on the team. We still want to do like a full release in early access, so we do work in that year with the larger community. But right now, we just want to make sure the game's fun.
So speaking of those community playtests, when Prologue arrives in early access, what sort of feedback are you looking for from players?
Where's the fun? Like, what do they want to do? Like, this is 8x8. It's quite beautiful, we think. I've been wandering through the forest myself, and it's you just come across things and you're like, this is really nice. Like, and just thinking of things like, well, maybe we give players a tent so they can just camp on top of a mountain and wait. We found some players just want to have a cozy cabin, right, and just stay in their cabin when the weather goes outside and just see how long they can stay for, right? But yeah, there's no right way to play it, and that's what I really love about the games I want to make.
So Prologue's 8x8. Artemis is supposed to give players an Earth-sized map. Is that right? That's still the goal?
500 million square kilometers, I think.
You've mentioned that players are going to be able to work together to hunt, build villages. So it sounds like this is going to be like a large-scale civilization simulator. How far is that accurate?
I say like kind of. So those systems will be there. Okay. Like I want ecology systems. I want, if you kill all the bears in one region, then the deer go nuts. I want these, but these take a long time to get right. I just want it to be an open space that you can do this stuff if you want to, but if you just want to wander around and see the world, that's also fine. Like, there shouldn't be an enforced way of playing. But if you want to take over a territory and do that, there should be systems there to allow you to do it. But again, this is what we want to work on over the next, 10 years, to try to figure out what is the best way of creating a digital place. Because it's not just a game, it's meant to be just a place, right? Like a 3D internet, a place you can go, and yes, you can play games there, but you can also do a whole lot of other stuff.
In your mind, when are these games set? Are they set in the modern day? Is there electricity?
Oh no, I mean, there's a lore there, there's a story I want to tell that's in the background. We won't be revealing it too early, but there'll be hints of it through the games we make. But there is, there's a reason they exist.
You mentioned having AI helpers that can help players gather reresources. Yeah. Are these stand-ins for human players, or is the goal to actually get actual real people collaborating together?
It was one of the early ideas I had for how, if you have an Earth-scale world, and even if we can only do maybe 10,000 people or 100,000 people on this world, it's still going to be quite empty. So maybe you don't have a lot of friends, so we give you 4 AI helpers, like in Age of Empires, where you have your woodworker, your metalworker, your scientist, your healer or whatever, and they're just bots that help you do stuff, and maybe you take over a town, and the more humans that you come to the town and build a community, the more AI you have, because you get their AI as well. And now with the advances with LLMs and stuff, these these bots can learn a bit about you and become sort of friendly towards you. Now, that's a bit dystopian, a little bit, but again, I just think, like, how can we leverage this to create a world that these things do their jobs and take away the resource gathering part, right? So it makes more about exploration and building communities rather than you doing all the work, right? So that's how I imagine at least bots working in the game.
Well, this all sounds incredibly ambitious, and we look forward to learning more about Artemis and Prologue Go Way Back. Thank you, Brendan, for joining me today.
Thanks so much. It'd be a pleasure.
If you want to start tooling around with Melba and get a taste for what Artemis could be, you can download the tech demo for Preface, The Undiscovered World right now, and wishlist Prologue on Steam. And for more incredible FanFest content, stay right here on IGN.